Dr. Minnie Salunke is a gynecologist who did her MBBS and MD from GMC Nagpur, Government Medical College Nagpur. For some years, she worked as a lecturer in the same college to gain experience. And then she went to the Sultanate of Oman as a consultant in the Ministry of Health there. She came back to Nagpur for some time, but for the last 20 years, that is from 2000 onwards, she's practicing in Pune. And presently, she's attached to Cloud9 Hospital in Pune. Her special area of interest is high-risk obstetrics. But apart from this, what I enjoy about her and what I would like to tell you is that music is a relaxation and a second love. She's cleared 4 levels of classical Hindustanic music, vocal, and she loves not only singing but also listening to music. So, if you don't find Minnie in her hospital taking care of some patient, you'll find her at some musical concert or in the theater.
Mhm.
Welcome, Minnie, to the session on Safe
Thank you
Spaces.
so much, Ramya, for the kind words. And it's so pleasing to hear your friend describing you in such colorful language and colorful words.
I
Thank
aim
you.
to please. I aim to please.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, what, Minnie, would you say is your biggest achievement in life till now? There are more achievements to come. Till now, what is your biggest achievement?
Um, biggest achievement, I mean, see, there might be two aspects of it, personal and professional. Maybe professionally, I would say that in spite of all odds and coming to a new city and coming up from scratch, I
Mhm.
have managed to become good in my job. I can say people know me, and that particular thing is that I have achieved to some extent. You can say a kind of niche area in my subject. That is one thing. And personally, yes, personally, I could say that again, in spite of all odds and ups and downs, I think that I have managed to bring up my family and my children and have tried to instill the good values in them.
Absolutely, and I'm witness to all that has been happening in your life, and I totally agree with what you say. And when you say that you have created a nick for yourself in a new city, that is something I totally admire about you because
Thank you.
establishing yourself and building up a practice like you have done in a new city is something really uh, commendable.
Thank you.
What
Thank you so much, Ramya.
has helped you in this journey? Could you
Help has
whom will
been
you be
from all quarters, but I
Mhm.
suppose the most help has been from my husband, Dr. Sanjay Salunke, who is a gastroenterologist in Pune, and of course
Mhm.
from my children, my mother, who has been a help presently because she's with us, and even when she was not with us, because of her constant encouragement. I would say
Mhm.
because encouragement of the family has been one of the mainstay of the success.
So the next thing I would like to ask you, and I was going to ask you, was what is the role of your parents here? How much role have they played? How much role has your mother played in bringing you till here?
Yeah, I think my mother has been the mainstay of my encouragement, and she's been a pillar of support because I lost my father at an early age when I was 17. But I think both when he was alive and with my mother, the main part of the upbringing was the encouragement and instilling good values. Because in those
Mhm.
days, I remember that in college and school, we didn't have that much money and those, that affluence, which nowadays probably these children are seeing more. But the instilling of values and that discipline, coming home at a proper time, do everything carefully, do everything properly. You go to the college, come back, okay, do your studies. So our life was a small, you could say, a small kind of a cocoon or a balloon. You couldn't go beyond that. And I'm so happy that today she has instilled so many good values in us.
Absolutely. And as I said, if I know you, I know your mother also. So I totally agree with what you say. I hope you don't find it another bouncer, but I would like to ask you that if you were to describe yourself in just 3 words, what are the qualities or adjectives that you would give yourself?
Oh, that is, something which I'll have to think about for a moment, I think. So you
Take
want
your
three
time.
words. I would say dependable, honest,
Correct?
and the third thing would be humble.
Absolutely. But if you were to think of yourself in your college days or in your school days, would you say that you have been the same?
Yes, I think so. I mean, this is, I think, maybe for the others to judge, but I think more or less, yes. I may not have changed so much in the past few years.
But you have become more dependable, more honest, and it's sort of an improvement of yourself.
Right, right. I could say that. Yes, yes.
So, would you say that your parenting was active or it was passive? Like there was a lot of involvement, or she would let you do whatever you wanted?
I would say it was a mix of both actually,
Mhm.
because initially when the children were small, um, it was um, it was active. My
Mhm.
daughter would probably listen to me initially, but
Mhm.
as they grow older,
Mhm.
then when they start having a mindset of their own and they go out and they have their own friends, then it becomes more and more passive, I would feel that your words might not have that much significance or that much, for them it might not create that much of a impact.
Mhm.
So initially active in the sense that I hope I've taken it in the right way, that means that initially very actively you're talking to your child and she or he is listening to you. Passive
Mhm.
later means, okay, you listen to the child, probably understand what they want, then give your opinion. If they want,
Mhm.
they will take it. If they
Follow
don't
it.
want, they probably might do whatever they want on their own.
Exactly. But when you were a child, would you describe your childhood as a safe childhood? Did you feel safe when you were a child?
Yes, because I'll tell you, we were when I was a child, we were in IIT Kanpur till
Mhm.
the age of 17.
Mhm.
So it was a very safe community there. No
Mhm.
outsiders, only the IIT people, only the residents of IIT. Of course,
Mhm.
there were the other caretakers and the other staff members and all also, but
Mhm.
the house and the school was walking distance, and
Mhm.
I never felt that it is unsafe. Or
Mhm.
probably in those days, the what could I say, that the number of boys and girls in the class and all that, also it didn't strike us, like supposing you say that, was this boy, was he cheesy, or was he coming near you, or he was talking to you in a particular way. So I never felt that. As probably I grew older and then I came to Nagpur, and then the distance from the medical college also and all that. And when you go into it's like when you're going out into the market and you're seeing many type of people. So when you
Yeah.
are exposed to that after school
Mhm.
into college, that time you probably would, your parents would also tell you, and you would also think on your own, oh, that fellow, na, he's not looking at me in a nice way. And then
Mhm.
okay, you go back 2 steps and come home safely. But in the younger days, we would, of course, but never as children. Our parents were not allowing us to go out in the evenings or maybe meeting friends and all that. So it was a safe childhood, yes. See, in those days, what used to happen is that house to school, and from school back to the house. And if you're going out anywhere only with your parents, probably. In supposing in my childhood, the restrictions were that don't go out after 7, or even if you're going to your friends or parties, someone is accompanying you, someone is bringing you back probably. So you are not meeting anyone else who is, kind of away from any strangers or anyone whom you don't know. So you feel safe in that environment. The moment you're on your own, probably, where your parents are not there, or your siblings are not there, or your friends are not there, known friends are not there, then you start feeling, then I think at that time one would start feeling a little unsafe as to the time, location, if you're in a new location, something like that. That I don't want to go with the ambulance driver alone, even today. So I would prefer waking up my husband and telling him to come with me in the car, going to the hospital and coming back.
But
So,
from this, I understand that Sanjay is your safe space. That if he's
definitely,
around, then you don't feel
definitely, yeah, yeah.
safe.
Of equality, in my case, the thing is that I have many years I was, you could say, single, and I was on my own. So here, what happens that it is very important that I no, it has been kind of because of the circumstances that I have been. Equality, especially the gender equality, is very important, because here that it is very important for the female to be kind of on her own, in the sense that she has to be on her own 2 feet in between, because now since everything is going well, I wouldn't kind of concentrate on that fact, but in between those periods were such that it was very important that I stand on my own 2 feet. I can raise up my child on my own, or I give her and me a safe space to stay in, so that we are all comfortable. And but now, if you ask me, after things have changed, uh, of course, the female and the male gender equality holds a very important part in a female's life, definitely, because you feel that your husband and your relatives and everyone in the family gives you a proper space, a proper respect. So that would be something which it might be tilting more towards feminism, I don't know, but I feel very, very greatly on female equality here. So that, we are no less than our male counterparts. The other equalities regarding, maybe, supposing you're working in an organization and there are so many other people who are equal to you, or who have their own roles. So yes, each and every person is equal and important in their own right.
So that you feel that giving people their due importance is one concept of equality for you.
Definitely, because see, now when we're working, as you also have a hospital, so like what happens is that there are, right from the caretakers, various levels of caretakers, maushis are there, mamas are there, so many, but you have to give them their due respect, the sisters, because then only they are able to perform at their highest level, and that respect and importance in an organization is very important. Because I think that their basic thinking is disrupted somewhere, because they think they are not thinking in the right direction because of this entitlement, which you say that they may have got. So they are probably misusing their powers. As I have, to tell you the truth, I may not know much about it, but what I have read from your project also, that it is very high. It is very high. And I was actually shocked when I read about some few things, and I've seen some few, you could say, some clips. So it is very shocking to know that this is so high in India. And I was feeling even more shocked when I saw all these things and read all these things, because as a gynecologist, I have never encountered this. I mean, I was surprised.
Before you read about this project, Did you know that the incidence was so high?
Yes, incidence is high because what happens, I'll tell you, that we keep hearing about this over and over again. It's there in the papers, it's there. See, people don't talk about it openly. You don't hear it from anyone because, as your as you know better, you all know better that they keep silence, the community, shame prevails and all that. But yes, it is very high, that I know. I think it should be with the children, the people whom the children know, because there, then what happens? They become very pally with
Okay.
them. They become very comfortable with them, and then slowly, if this starts, the child doesn't even realize probably that this has started and this is something different. It's not the usual touch or the usual love or affection that the relative or the friend is showing. The usual things which, because even I think even when the child is going to the bus and going to the school, initially the whoever is there, they are known to her, known to him or her. It is not as if they are strangers. So going to and fro, or in the house, an extended family, in big families, you don't realize. So this, I think, slowly starts happening like that, and that's why they don't come up with it is very because the child doesn't, I think, understand also that what's happening initially, because
Absolutely
he
true.
or she is so used to the fellow or the lady. No, I don't think so. And in a country like India and the various communities that we stay in, I don't think that is the only thing which can be done. I mean, it's not going to stop the child sexual abuse. Um, I think the main aim here would be to counsel the children and make them aware of these things first.
Make them
Make
more.
them more talk. I mean, make them kind of talk. Basically, be unafraid and make them talk freely about what's happening in their lives.
Right.
So only
Right.
when they feel comfortable, then only they'll be able to talk about these things. Otherwise, they would be a very scared lot. Mental, emotional, and physical. I think all three things would be there in the child sexual abuse. Means mentally torturing the child or saying something which is some sexual. What you cannot. I mean, mentally torturing the child, or physically uh, like more of fondling and more of touching the private parts and all that. That would constitute some form of sexual abuse. Touching the child inappropriately, hugging him all the time, or making him sit on your lap, or and touching inappropriately, or uh, making him or her do things for you. That you come and touch. Supposing the adult is getting stimulated by certain gestures or certain touches. So those type of things, I think, would constitute child sexual abuse. And initially, because the child doesn't understand probably the intent behind the act, so the child goes along.
So you feel, as you have rightly put it, that physical abuse is always there, that will
Yes.
come as a behavior to be included under child sexual abuse. But even if that child is being used emotionally or mentally, like showing him some or her some pictures,
Yes.
having sexually explicit conversations with them,
Yes.
these are
Yes.
also forms of child sexual abuse.
Child sexual abuse. Yes. Yes. Since I haven't actually any experience on this, I'm just thinking out of the box, and maybe some behavioral changes or some kind of physical acts. Maybe the child is touching his own whatever the adult is making him do. Probably the child is doing the same thing with his own body or something, and then you pick out that he's sitting in a corner and maybe doing that or thinking, or maybe his language is changing, or the way he's not concentrating on his studies or this thing. Maybe probably small things would make you think that there is some behavioral change in the child, and picking at his clothes or the parts which are, fondling his own parts. Maybe something like that would make you think that there is something, he's taking undue interest in something which he shouldn't. Abuse he's been given, and how many years this has been going on, because then the long lasting physical and the emotional impacts will be too much. Abuse which has been going on for many years, and the child has hidden it from everyone, and no one has no one has caught it. So such a abuse, it will kind of change the child's personality altogether as the years go by, and hopefully it shouldn't instill some. Sometimes what I mean, we have seen this, I think probably only in movies and all. The child becomes something like his abuser later on. He maybe doesn't understand the difference between good and bad. So if you can catch it at the young stage, then probably with therapy and all that, and then to make the child understand that he or she has not done anything wrong, he is not responsible for this, he need not be ashamed of it. The community has to come forward. The more than the community, the family members have to all support the child, and then the therapy starts. But this has to be caught pretty early, I think, because the later you catch it, the more physical and mental scars on the child's. I'm not a good counselor, but it will be a mammoth task for the parents and the child to understand actually what he has done, or what he was made to do. And then the uncle's act of denial, and no, he is the one who is should be ashamed of himself, he's doing, the child should be like. So there'll be a lot of big story later on. So I understand that this is a very difficult task.
So if the Didi approaches her parents, which parent will she approach, you think?
I think she will approach the mother.
And what will the mother do?
Mother, see, now here also, it depends, Ramya, on the type of family they have. If that mother is educated and understanding, she understands. See, sometimes I feel that in the first instance, they say, heart, nothing. It's not possible. This is not happening. They might shoo away the girl and the boy, both. That you've made it up, or this is not happening. If the parents are educated and they understand about child sexual abuse, and they are ready to digest the fact that the uncle has done this, means the real brother of the father or whoever have done this, then the thing is that they will slowly counsel the child and come out of it. But I think in Indian families, basically what will happen is, initially at least, if the mother and father are not that well educated, and they will just shoo away the children and just it's going to be silenced completely. It's only if they are educated about all these things, then they will understand. Because he being a boy, they might not listen to him so much. Probably if the girl had said, okay, that man is fondling my breast, so he has touched some part, so maybe there the mother would have said that, okay, I understand. Then what if she is in that frame, if she has that ability, and if she's a learned and a woman who is literate, then probably she'll be able to tell her husband. So it depends on the whole household and their mindset. Because most of the Indian families, I think this is a very difficult thing to happen.
So whether they confront the chachu or not will also depend on the type of family they have.
Definitely the type of family, and how much they are into it, and how literate they are. Brother has had some past record or track record or something, then I think the father would definitely go and confront the brother.
He will go and
confront the brother, the chachu, his brother, and ask him as to what has happened. But if the family is not joint families, I think Indian joint families, if they are those typical joint families which we see, it's going to be difficult to suggest this, that your brother has done something. and there'll be a lot of hue and cry about this. I don't think they'll do that, because if the family is very close knit, the chachu is close knit, they will try always. I think initially that don't listen to the boy. He's saying something which is this thing. So here, the frightful thing is this, that the boy has told something, the girl understands, but whether the parents will understand, the mother may understand. But again, here, what struck me is that this is a boy who has been sexually abused, and that was the thing which shocked me the most. That, I always thought that the girls are much more sexually abused, and shocking thing was the boy. And then, will anyone listen to him? So because for a girl, when she cries rape, or someone has touched her inappropriately, okay, everyone will listen. So the shocking thing was the boy and the chachu, because the chachu is a person in the house. He's not a stranger. You go out in the train or this thing and someone pinches you. It's not like that. So here I thought, my God, are they going to get justice or not? The only thing I was thinking is, how is this going to be resolved? I mean, will the parents and the brother, the father, means the child's father, will he take the side of the chachu, means his real brother, or his son? Because see, here children, and I think in India, are always underestimated, and they are not given the importance which they should be given at that age also. So whether the chachu has because of his age and his stature, he has more power, because the young child does not have any power. Counseling of the children and the counseling of the family and the parents. Because basically we have to make them realize that they are not culprits, and tell them the difference between a good touch and a bad touch. And tell them the importance of gender equality, and the importance of the fact that if someone is abusing them, to immediately open up to them, open up to the adults. So the counseling part is something which definitely would be the smartest action.
And you would be willing to do that. So basically, by counseling, you mean you would like to spread awareness.
Spread awareness, definitely.
Both with the children and with the adults.
Yes, because the mental health of the child is much more important for me than to see the culprit in jail. Because, first look at the child and see that he or she becomes a good human being. That all the police and the other people can do. But the child's well-being here would be most important. So thank you. It was lovely talking to you.
We did this interview.
And I'm honored that you invited me to your show. And I am a Rakshan, and I'm a very much part of I hope that the organization Sakshi takes leaps and bounds, and kind of counsels all this sexual abuse, and can bring it to some extent. Can I think the counseling part you people are doing wonderfully. So hats off to all of you. You're doing a wonderful job, and I hope to be a small part of the organization.